Weibo still in the enemy jungle, but the big chicken is already going to be controlled. Light trying to get away, but the crash down comes out from On, and BLG's already got first blood. Yeah, Xiaohu slammed into the wall. Remember, he has no flash to try to get away, and a lot of damage on Defense gonna be the first kill. As Breathe survives, trying to continue the fight, as Matt kills the enemy jungler. There's no jungler left. Light is struck down by Night Syndra, and Chris will be the last man to fall. And ace for BLG.
BLG win the fight and they're gonna take the game.
Well, it is BLG that do not want to repeat the drama of Busan, and they want to make quick work of Weibo in this semi-final. Again though, Weibo started off well, doing pretty good, but it was BLG that came into it. Also thanks again to Knight's Syndra, which I know you didn't like the draft that much, but it slapped.
It was a heavy AP draft.
It was.
I'll say that. It was very heavily AP. It started off well after it started off very poorly, right?
Yeah.
Because the thing that set up was the fact that, again, Weibo do this invade. They're actually able to get Light off of this. And at this point, I'm thinking, oh my gosh, this game is doomed.
Yeah, Light walked in to face check the brush behind Red because he thought it was just Ziggs there, but Jax is in his face, and so then, you know, he's dead right off the bat, and BLG start out with Knight flashing there to get the first blood bonus money on his Syndra, which is iconic, which he goes on to have a pretty large game on.
Yeah.
And Xiaohu has like 100 health, and it's just stuck playing Lucian without getting to actually bully in the early laning
Stop
phase.
playing, he chose that.
Yeah, he did.
That's one of his,
He
you know,
loves
iconic
Well, yeah,
shit.
but he
It's one of his
normally,
specialties,
he's
yeah.
not supposed to. Yeah,
No,
I know,
no, I
but he's not
understand.
supposed to be in that spot that early on, and that's what I think really threw off the early game plan for Weibo, even though we saw some of it work in the mid game.
And we gotta say, we talked so much about coming into this, the fact that the Shy wouldn't be there for Weibo would be to their biggest detriment, but Breathe has been their best player so far.
Yeah, honestly, Breathe was the player who got them back into the game with some really crucial Maokai engages. There was one right around Dragon, I think, that was like the stellar standout one for me. I thought he played this Maokai really, really well. And again, no, it's not the Shy, but the Breathe is trying so hard, and especially with this top lane Maokai pick that they pulled out was really, really fun to see.
Yeah, it was, there's some chatter that they knew it was coming, right? And the bans were adjusted accordingly. Still, though, you saw how strong it was. It was insanely strong. It's going to be something to think about in terms of the drafts. But let's take a look at the Baron in our HyperX Reflex replay, because there was a lot of good, there was a lot of intricacies, and there was also a Xiaohu TP at the end.
Yeah, we'll get to the ending later, because initially I like this from Weibo. They definitely, even with the heavy AP build, I think get outscaled. So they have an opportunity to take away the Baron here. The problem is then actually getting out. And you can see this fight is all over the place, so there's not really an easy and clear way out for Weibo. But they actually get out Xiaohu. Tarzan makes it out as well. And there, here you look and you go, okay, it's fine. We get the
Xiaohu has
Baron
the buff.
Yeah.
Xiaohu is one of your big split pushers, has the buff. And I could someone take it from
Here
me
he
because
comes.
Breathe
Here
has so much
comes
time,
Xiaohu.
and it was a bait. He baited his teammate in.
Yeah,
Okay, how does he play this correctly?
So there's a world where he could have gone for poke damage, not just dashed in immediately, right? He could have slow played it.
He dashes in and then flashes after the auto is already buffed, so Rel just flips him back and just doesn't get to play the game.
Ah, no.
Look at that damage!
Yeah,
Maokai did almost as much!
I see it. Wait, if I'm my goat, I'm just gonna...
Oh no.
Wait,
Oh, no.
I'm just gonna...
No.
Oh,
You're putting it away
Filler.
for later, right?
Yeah,
You're gonna bring it back out?
I'm totally bringing it back.
My GOAT right now for this series is actually, I feel like tank junglers are really underappreciated.
Yep.
I feel like Shun's Skarner, it has actually been my MVP of the series so far. I'm definitely biased towards junglers, but he is doing so much setup, so many picks. He was the one who picked off Xiaohu a whole bunch this time around. He's the one getting so many engages for BLG and then being up 2-0. Like, do you have to do some adjustments there?
Yeah, and I also love it because we have to remember BLG wasn't doing too hot. They had Wei in the jungle, right? Wei, who had given them a more multi-dimensional play style, not only playing towards bots. Then they go down 0-2, and they call up Shun. They say, we need you to do this job for us, and he has been stellar.
Yeah, and you can see it from some of their draft priority, right? How they have been focusing heavily on the red side, making sure that they're able to get Bin's Jax and then the Skarner for Shun. I think the other thing that's really interesting that you saw, again, people said they expected the Maokai to be going in the top lane on this draft. I think Rakan and Ashe both being removed has been huge based on how we saw each of these teams qualify. And then the Yone ban coming out of Weibo on the blue side as well to set up for this, I thought was super interesting. I am curious to see now what changes going into Game 3 if Weibo just throw all of this out, because we already know, presumably, what BLG are going to do with their first rotation.
Yeah, Weibo's still blue, as expected, Maurits.
Yeah, no surprise there. There are two things. One, I think you are not going to give that Skarner over again, but also they've been holding on very strongly to this Kalista-Renata combo. I think it's time to try something else, right? I know that it's an insanely strong pick, but we do see that you're just not able to, even if you do get the lead, in game number 1 they didn't get the lead, didn't really work. In game number 2, even with a 2k gold lead on that Kalista, the moment Jack shows up in team fights, he's just sitting there going like, well, I can't play the game.
Yeah, is that also a thing? Like, why is that Jack still being given over to Bin, right? Because it doesn't matter if you put him behind. It's happened in almost every single game. Even going back to like Swiss, right? It doesn't matter.
Yeah, I could see the pain of your, G2 eyes, the first game of that G2 series.
What? I don't know what you're talking about.
What he was able to do with the Jax.
I mean, he's great on the Jax. So let's see if he gets it for the 3rd game in a row.
All right, everybody, welcome back. It is time for game number 3 here in this LPL versus LPL semifinal. BLG up 2-0, despite both games being close. But gentlemen, we were just joking about it. In the future, nobody remembers how close it is if it's a 3-0. Yeah. They just remember BLG punching a ticket to finals, which they are now 1 game away from doing.
And they have now won 10 straight games against Weibo. And that is something that has got to get in your head. There have been close games amongst those 10, but still, at the end of the day, every single time, it's BLG coming out on top.
But I think this really is the learning point for BLG. We talk about T1 learning from DRX and saying don't underestimate your opponents. Last year, they underestimated Weibo, and Weibo were able to fight back against them. Now it's BLG taking that learning and saying, no, we deserve our spot in finals. We are the best team in the LPL, and now we just have to take 1 more game off of Weibo to prove it.
So adjustment being made. Yone not banned on blue side this time by Weibo. Instead, they're actually going to be banning out the Kalista. So do they go Yone? My guess is they don't go Yone, and they're going to have a plan to try to deal with Knight's Yone. That, I think, is like the 3rd evolution of this kind of Yone conundrum. But it doesn't give me a lot of faith.
I was going to say, I think it's the fact that they banned the Kalista instead is, hey, look, we just don't want to take the Kalista so we can actually go for a bit more of an even lane matchup. Also, the fact that Light has already brought out some things like the Caitlyn and try and change things, yeah. But I think that's where it's like, hey, let's just try and go back to bodying bot lane, because that was the thing that was successful for them in LPL. But as you say, they're going up against what has been a pretty nice combo for BLG.
It's a really strong combo, and I don't see why Knight just doesn't go Smolder on 3. And then you have the exact same problem that you had in game number 1, right? And this is my concern. You know, the question is then, okay, does Weibo say, well, game 1 actually we fought pretty well, but we lost because we didn't have enough engage? You know, do they draft some sort of additional form of hard engage or some way to really make the fights happen on their terms? Because I think that is going to be something that they do really require if they want this game to look very different. And with Ezreal and Maokai, you have that primary form of engage. You also have an AD carry who can both stay alive, but also reach backline with that ultimate. And I mean, this just feels like a really obvious AD slam, but it's not going to be the Smolder.
No, it's going to be the Kai'Sa instead to get that good matchup in the bot lane. And I think that is kind of to say, hey, look, we need something that's going to be able to match Light, because Light has been incredible on this Ezreal. And as this game starts to go on, there is so much CC going the way of BLG. You're going to be able to unlock this Ezreal for a lot of those fights. But I think that's honestly where Kai'Sa is going to struggle. I look at not a huge amount of frontline dive to try and set up. Like, Skarner kind of likes people to play into him. You need something that's a bit more focused on further dive, but I just don't really know how you're going to get it.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, it's going to be interesting, right? And we could obviously just draft hard engage with the support, and I think that does fix a lot of the issues. So far, there has not been a lot of support bans. It is just the Rakan, but like Rel is up, Alistar is up, Nautilus is up, Leona's up, right?
Everything's up.
So you can just grab some sort of hard engaged champion. I think that plus some sort of high consistent DPS champion for Knight would round out the composition that BLG have quite well. And I do think Jax is a great answer for side lane Yone later on. You can outscale. Counter-Strike, obviously such a strong answer to all of the auto attack damage that Yone does really rely on. And we'll see if it is going to be, a little bit of a cook in the draft, and if they are going to be sending Maokai to top again. BLG certainly thinks that it is a possibility at least, because they are going to maintain that ban here on the brand.
Yeah, they are getting value on Weibo's side for the flexibility of the Maokai after showing it last
This would be
game.
crazy.
So let's see. There's no way, right?
No.
Well, I mean, for a while, mid lane Quinn was actually getting really popular, and this.
I think this is a shout out to the Shy from last year, though, right? It was the Quinn that he brought out in this finals, in the semi-final to take down Bin. So I think it's more of a like, hey, we remember what you did, but it's not going to go the same way.
All right, the Akali.
Oh.
All right, Akali versus Yone in the mid lane.
This is the unstoppable force versus the stoppable force here on the Akali. This is like the 90% win rate assassin in the mid lane versus the 3-8 Akali, which has not really been looking strong.
But he likes those odds.
He likes those odds, and it is Knight playing it, so has the confidence that he can just make this happen. This is going to be interesting. They are committing pretty heavily to dive. I think pretty much guaranteed we are getting a hard engaged support on 5, I would think, from BLG to really kind of round things out and try to get into that back line. But with the Vi coming through, it's going to be a nightmare game, you have to feel like, for both Akali and for Kai'Sa potentially. I mean, if you get that lockdown, you have so much follow-up AoE that can hit Akali in the Shroud and also potentially be able to actually lock them down pretty hard.
Also, who's Akali really assassinating this game? It's so difficult to lock down an Ezreal or set up onto the Ezreal. Yone is going to match you and be relatively beefy in himself, and everyone else has got their own kind of tank stats. So it becomes very difficult to really play for this Akali, but this could be an interesting one. No.
I mean, Sejuani Rumble is one of those pairings that we've seen be really popular with the LPL and LCK teams. We were talking about this morning when we were talking about draft, and they do have that triple melee top side here, plus a melee support, so it is going to be the Maokai getting moved around. It is going to be getting flexed. This time it is going to be Crisp that is piloting it, though. There are a lot of pairings here for Tarzan to look to try to attack really any lane where he sees an opportunity. On the other side, I do think it could be a tough game for Knight. I mean, I really agree with you, Rob. There's not a lot of great targets. I mean, if they can execute perfectly and you kind of have Akali diving in on the Ezreal and then he's running away into the waiting arms of Bin's Jax and this kind of thing, then you can make it happen. But there's no super easy front to back. It's got to be everyone coordinating, getting the plasma stacks in. When he shifts away, Killer Instinct comes in from Elk, and you help to really knock that guy down and finish him off. But the amount of counter engage is strong. Maokai ult, you have the equalizer, you have all of these tools that you're going to have to be fighting through if you want to actually get to light.
Yeah, it feels like you've got so many ways to separate the fighters, Weibo. I just don't really know how they want to plan this one out. It feels like unless Knight gets like 2 kills early in a skirmish and suddenly starts to snowball and can just one-shot Ezreal or be a matchup spread onto a Yone, but that's so difficult to just say, yeah, that's the game plan. So, I don't know. I think this is where Weibo, their draft is really favored in this.
Well, they're going to need everything they can get, down 0-2. Weibo either goes on a 3-game winning streak to break their 10-loss streak against BLG now, or their season is over, just shy of being able to go to London and fight again in the finals.
And we were talking about this backstage, Flowers. Like, it's so tough. You've already lost twice on red side, so now you have to get a win on blue and then swap over to the red side and try and figure out how the hell to deal with this, like Yone, how to deal with so many of the picks that you've had the luxury of banning away on the blue side.
This is also pretty interesting. So Light has elected to go teleport. All of the BLG players were like pinging that. It felt like when it's coming in, people were kind of pinging over on that. So it is going to be heal on Crisp. It's TP on Light, which is really strong for that 2v2 as long as it's not an all-in play, because it can really allow you to dominate tempo, get a quick early base, and be able to kind of take over in that position from there.
And we're talking a lot about this Akali, whether or not it's going to be able to succeed. Reminder, this is our featured matchup presented by Mercedes-Benz, Xiaohu versus Knight. Game record 30-32, ever so slightly favoring Knight. Series record tied dead even 11-11 between these two.
It is very even here, but the thing is, when you're a little kid and your dad beats you in the 1v1, and then you grow up and you start dunking on them, that's kind of what Knight's been doing to Xiaohu lately. A 10-game winning streak, I feel like really tells the tale of how things have gone this year.
I mean, these are the two premier mid laners in the LPL. In the last 18 finals of the LPL, 16 of them have had either Xiaohu or Knight in them. They go toe-to-toe on LPL titles with 5 apiece, toe-to-toe on the record for most consecutive finals at 6 apiece. And it really feels like a world championship is what separates these two, apart from obviously the 2 extra MSI titles that Xiaohu has, but it really has been so favored at this world level for the LPLs who takes that title of best mid laner.
We kind of have the Aussie rules lanes here, the upside down lanes going on as the lane swap was matched. Traditionally people with the Alistar are trying to avoid that lane. We do have Tarzan up on the top side though, on an Elk still level 1. We'll see if they want to look for any sort of really aggressive play. But they are very healthy, so I think it would be pretty tough to pull off.
Another Mystic shot lands onto Elk there, though. So Crisp and Light trying to keep that pressure on. Level 2s have now been acquired, so BLG's duo should be plenty safe enough. Yeah. We've already talked about it a little bit, but just again, going to be keeping our eyes this entire game on Knight's Akali, on whether or not he can actually navigate these fights, because AoE is the thing that nullifies the normally very powerful Shroud that Akali has.
Look at Shun, though. He's setting up for a dive on towards Breathe immediately on the bottom lane.
All right, Breathe gonna get stunned up here for the counter strike. Bin wants to get it done. First blood for Shun. It's a 1-for-1 trade as both top laner flashes are spent.
Breathe can TP back in though. Bin actually burning the flash and dying. Works out pretty well. As long as you are able to get the majority of this CS, I think you're pretty happy because the kill went to Shun, but the kill went to Breathe and on towards Shun. So actually in the grand scheme of things, it works out pretty even Stevens.
Yeah, it's not too bad. I mean, I do think it's still a well set up play here. Bin holds the counter-strike for so long, so when there's the flash coming through, it's still level 2 Breathe. They do kill him off. As far as total gold, though, you did get the first blood over on BLG, and you denied about 4 or 5 minions there, so he's going to be down a little bit of XP once Bin actually does collect the wave as it pushes back towards him. But for the isolated 1v1 for now, things pretty darn even.
Plus the extra assist money for making sure that you have a second guy involved in it does end up being 600 total gold versus 300 traded back the other way. Feels good for BLG, but still nice, close game early on with just that trade in the bottom side. It's not going to be another 17-minute first blood in this one, but we're also not getting that chicken fight.
Look at Shun again, though. He resets, giant spell, bot lane again. They really want to punish this.
I mean, I think it's really smart. The wave is horrible right now for Breathe. Breathe has no flash, no TP, and the wave is heavily stacking and pushing away from him, so they know he's going to be vulnerable.
Oh, but now problems up in the top side is on an Elk. Got to be careful here. Light and Chris doing a great job in this 2v2. Enemy support nearly killed as they force on back underneath the turret.
Still trying to see if they can put the pressure down. This wave is going to crash as well, so they might be sitting ducks underneath here, especially if Light can get a couple of those Mystic shots to land, but both junglers now just fighting on this bottom side. Luckily, Tarzan was there, so you do get the crash for Breathe on that bottom side, and it won't get zoned off.
Yeah, that was interesting. It looked like Shun was trying to delay time, see if he could actually secure it without having to use Smite, because Knight could move over, but at the end of the day, Tarzan does at least force that Smite to be used. And it is going to be Breathe having to back off here. And it will be a bit of an advantage down on that bot side, as far as the experience goes, but not much of one.
So it has been total grub control so far in this series for Weibo. The first set of grubs going to spawn here in about 45 seconds. Remember that game number 1, Weibo got 5 of the 6. Game number 2, they ended up getting 6 of the 6. I'm curious if BLG will be able to do a better job fighting for those grubs in this third game, because once again, we've got the Jax-Skarner combo.
I mean, it's just felt like they haven't cared because they've been happy to scale, they've been happy to side lane, they've been happy to trade for other things. They're saying, yeah, great, take the grubs, we're going to take our time, we're going to have that patience. But I do think this kind of composition that they've drafted for this time is a lot more scrappy, and they may be looking to fight.
Then sidestepping that last Electro Harpoon there, trying to get away from Breathe as Tarzan is again hanging around this bottom side. Both junglers investing a lot into this bottom part of the map, trying to hover this 1v1.
But the fact that he shows bot means that it is going to be a grub start top for BLG.
Yeah, BLG going in, looking for Crisp first. Sure, he can flip connects, but Knight does not want to go further forward towards the Maokai.
Just trying to push Crisp off, though, so they can look towards these early Void grubs, but you've now got push in mid. Bin had started to roam up, but he needs to reset, go into that bot lane, so it's a bit of a timing window here for Weibo.
Yeah, Tarzan stepping up with Xiaohu, trying to contest here for the grub. Second grub goes over to Shun. Knight's got to be a little bit careful, goes into the smoke, slam into the wall with the Ishtal impact. Shun looking to lock up Xiaohu. As Tarzan gets a nice stun there back onto the enemy jungler, but Bin has made his way to the fight first. All three grubs going to be secured now by BLG. Fate Sealed forces out a couple of flashes. Crisp now in the middle of everybody. Got to be careful trying to get back over the wall, but Bin's already going to grab the kill on him. Knight behind him, trying to keep everybody corralled. Perfect execution right back over the wall. Breathe finally makes his way in. Equalizer still available, but BLG are all on the exit route. It's 3 grubs and 1 kill for BLG.
I cannot believe BLG managed to get out of that. And the fact that Bin got that kill is the only thing that evens up the massive wave he just lost on bot lane as well. So XP definitely in favor of Breathe, but I'm baffled that no one died on BLG side.
I mean, they played it out really well. Knight was dancing around with that shroud, waiting until the Sejuani stacks from the passive would actually fall off before getting back into combat, so he couldn't actually get focused down and burst down. I mean, this is the fallout of that wave. It was a massive stack wave. He lost, I would say, a good 2 to 3 waves down on that bot side, and then now it's stacking towards his opponent. So Breathe is going to go plus 20 CS or so, maybe even more than that, off the exchange from where he would have been.
Okay, Chris trying to close the distance here on Elk, but the Kai'Sa's fast enough to get out on now, showing up to cover his AD carry, while Knight pops the smoke back in the mid lane again, trying to get away. Nice CC from Tarzan to lock him up, but there is no Sejuani ulti, still only level 5.5, means they don't have the CC to guarantee the kill on the flashless Akali.
Yeah, both ultimates not being available meant that they just didn't really have the follow-up damage, so Knight able to step away. Bin now actually being the one to cover, and Bin has been doing a good job of kind of sacrificing himself, but he wants a bit more here.
We saw this in the previous game. It's Bin and Shun working together to punish Xiaohu when Knight is no longer able to maintain his position. It's beautifully done, just like the last time. Xiaohu drops, and another kill over to BLG.
And he flashes at the back of it as well, which means that he ends up losing that on top of everything as well. Nice play from Bin with the roam up, and Shun has been doing a great job of playing with this Skarner for these ganks through the lane, and now it's going to try and catch Crisp.
All right, let's see if Shun can get this done. Bin coming around with the counter-strike from the side. Crisp, only level 5, still pretty squishy here with the Maokai. They're chopping down trees with lampposts. Bin picking up another one as Shun escorts his top laner out. They'll rejoin with Elkin on, but Xiaohu locks up the Skarner and guarantees that Weibo can grab themselves their second kill of the game.
They do get that 1 kill back, but still great things happening on the map here for BLG. Knight's pushing in mid lane as well. And with those kills, Bin is now top 10 in MSI plus Worlds kills. He passes Ruler, one of those most historic players here. Bin, it's kind of like sneaky how long he's been playing. I tend to forget and think of him as one of those newer players, but he's been around for a while now, back to the Suning days.
Yeah, I mean, where he got the first ever pentakill in the World Finals. The man has been setting records for a long old time, and I think he wants to stick around and keep setting them up, especially if Shun is going to keep setting him up like this as they look for this engage on towards Crisp. Yes, he gets the knockback, but the answer's there. Counter-strike, the whack down. And then it is a nice job from Light to land so many of these Mystic shots as they start to move back out. Having Xiaohu in the back pocket as well, having a little bit of extra move speed thanks to boots, means he's able to take on the Scorpion.
Yeah, the Fate Sealed is nice, and then there's just no recourse for Shun. He can't flash out, he didn't have his E up yet, and if you use the W, you pull tower aggro. So even though you have the shield, so there's nothing he can do there, so he just turns around, accepts the death, makes sure that there can't be any sort of chase down after that to put pressure on the rest of his team, but things pretty even overall. It's just that top jungle advantage thus far for BLG. You know, Kobe was talking about how well he thought Shun had been doing on the desk, and again, he's turning in another strong performance, setting his team up for success.
Well, we have 10 seconds until the second set of grubs spawns. This is the first time in the series that BLG has acquired more than one, and they got that entire first set. Just getting a single grub from this second group is going to enable him to have those Void Mites spawning, going to enable him to have that extra split pushing power with this Jax for Bin.
But I don't think they will. I think they're just going to look for gold on Knight. Then we talked about this Akali really needs to get snowballing. She's already behind thanks to that kill that Xiaohu's able to pick up. So, hey, instead, we're just going to play on towards bot side, get the dragon stacking starting, and also look then for that extra gold on towards the Akali.
Yeah, we'll see how much he's going to be able to get, because after they grab the dragon, Shun could even move down towards bot side if they do think that there is some sort of an angle, but it looks like they don't expect that there will be, and Breathe had it warded out either way.
Yeah, I want to go back to your point you were making about Shun, though, because it's incredible to see how strong he's been for BLG after he was subbed out.
Wasn't the intended starter, yeah.
Exactly. It was Wei who came in. He came in halfway through summer and was like, no, this is the guy that we want to work with. He's going to add stability. We can just play through our 3 strong lanes. But coming into the Worlds, they were like, no, we want the guy who's able to come up with the creative plays, the guy who can play the Kindred, the guy who is piloting this Skarner so incredibly well here.
And it's really made you forget about a bit of the rough start that BLG had because they swapped in Shun, you know, after a couple of those losses. And he has been a guy that's bringing stability now, which is not really what you kind of associate with him. He was more that explosive player, you know, go dive bot, you know, go create these spicy plays. But he has been great for them on the Skarner.
2v2 could break out in full swing here on the top side. Xiaohu, though, snaps right on back with a soul unbound. So the scrap ends before it really begins. And Ben's happy enough with that, considering he's already down to about 1/3 HP. Tarzan going to walk up, face check into that brush. Not too afraid here on the Sejuani with the Arctic armor ready. Crisp also hanging around nearby. There's a lot of Weibo presence up here as this wave crashes into the turret. And Shun is making sure that Ben is not under real, meaningful threat as he farms it all up.
Yeah, just going to be able to zone Weibo away from going for the dive, but still have to get turret plates for Xiaohu. And this Yone is actually starting to get into a really good spot now with the early kill and now some of these plates. And Xiaohu was very good in game number 1 on this pick, and he may have an opportunity to do it again as Knight wants to fish for Breathe.
See if he can find him here. The Akali, a level down though. Not quite at the point where Breathe is. Has not been able to have as much time here in the side lane. So Knight just thinks better of it, backs away.
Yeah, I mean, especially with the steel cap boots, they're kind of thinking, hey, maybe we can look for the Akali up against Breathe. But we already said Breathe got a ton of that early CS and a big experience lead. So he's under a lot of threat going up against the Akali, who's still only just about to tick over to level 10. So at this stage, I think side lane gameplay is the way forward for Weibo.
And it's so interesting because BLG, I generally think of as the masters of playing this sort of style, of playing through sides in the LPL. I think that they were the best to do it. And you're looking at a lot of these games, and it feels like they're asking Ben to group so much that he's being put behind constantly as far as farm. You know, you look at the top lane matchup, he's down 35 CS, 36 CS when he was coming into it with an early advantage because of that kill, because of the bouncing wave to him.
And it's also funny because these are kind of the things you'd see in the game 1s from BLG. The ones that they would tend to lose was, hey, we're over grouping, we're trying to force plays at early fights, but okay.
Oh, Ben jumps in there, so close, slightly late on the flash follow for the Counter-Strike stun.
Would have had the Kai'Sa to swing on by as well if he'd managed to connect to that. And that's what they were trying to set up, but Xiaohu just about able to get away thanks to that CC delaying the follow-up from Ben.
Been trying to find that big play. Can't quite make it happen, but at least it is the trade of flashes, and Knights gets a grasp on bot side.
Worth pointing out here, very big difference compared to games 1 and 2 with those turret plate counts now that we're after 14 minutes into the game. 23 plates in game number 1, 22 plates in game number 2. Far, far less, not even 10 this time around in the third game. You can see with your MasterCard lane economy snapshot, the whole gold lead for BLG is on a Skarner, and that's not really where you want it to be. He's a big old meatball.
And if you're going to say that, then you know it's really a
TP off
problem.
the bot side, though. They want to try and look for the dive on Breathe.
See if they can get it. The wave still needs to be pushed up a little bit further. Ben is already in position, but the equalizer summoned up by Breathe to try to get rid of this wave. That last cannon minion will be the only thing to try to walk up to the turret, but it ain't going to get there in time. Breathe overheated. They immediately engage the Alistar ultimate, and BLG just brought enough firepower. Breathe's best efforts are in vain.
There's nothing you can do against the Alistar. Once he pops that ultimate, he's invulnerable to these towers. Lot, again, lost though on that top side. You can see that big wave was crashed by Weibo, so yes, you're getting a kill, but you're still losing on the map as BLG.
And at the very least, he actually did kill off the wave with the equalizer before it did crash.
Exactly.
So the tower damage is now coming in, but they can't kill off that tower. Had he not been able to actually finish off that cannon, maybe the tower goes down as well.
Yeah. It
It is definitely a close thing, but it is not going down just yet.
Okay, we got 30 seconds on our next Drake. The first one was picked up by BLG. It's going to be 16 minutes in, and second Drake of the game will only just now be spawning, so it's not like it'll be a big soul rush type of game. BLG obviously would be happy to get it, but I don't feel like there's a ton of pressure on either side to make a play for it, and BLG is overloading the top side instead.
And we'll just see what that soul spawn is going to be, because if second dragon is Chemtech, you know it's not going to be that soul, which kind of takes the worst one off the table. And there is still options for things like Hextech and Mountain Soul that I think could be incredibly strong in this game.
Herald summoned up mid lane by Weibo. as they'll try to force down this tier 1 turret. The first turret's already going to be killed up there in the top side. 2v1. Breathe wanted to try to stop Knight, and on the Rumble with the Flame Spitter needs more damage, but he won't find any of it. Teleport out from Knight to guarantee that he won't be traded back. Even gets out of the way before the True Shot Barrage would have hit him.
And again, another kill gifted across the Knight. You can see BLG are giving so much to try and get this Akali ahead, but the teleport needed to be burnt, which means that Weibo know Knight can't get involved. So it's a tower trade for the Dragon, plus a kill for BLG.
Yeah, and he already has that first item completed, has that Storm Surge, working towards potentially something like a Proto Belt or whatever next. And Bin looking good as well. They can play this 1-3-1 style and just try to use the Kai'Sa to collapse on those side lanes and look to try to potentially avoid some of these 5v5s that we thought was going to be really difficult in the draft.
And the question you posed earlier, Isaac, is now answered. On, what are you doing, buddy? On goes through the Hex Gate, knocks Tarzan back over the wall. Never mind, I should have never doubted. Beautiful impale from Shun, pulls back too. But the counterattack from Xiaohu is there with the Fate Seal. Massive damage on everybody on BLG, but Xiaohu's the first and only to die. Breathe comes in with the equalizer. Knight's gonna try to get away. BLG is burning, and Weibo is turning this whole fight around. Shun is about to drop. It looked good at the start, but Weibo suplexes the play.
It was a 2-for-1 special, but their eyes were bigger than their stomach. Weibo immediately jump in and decimate BLG as they're just stuck in the pit, burning alive.
It was all about that teleport there from Breathe. The first kill over on a Xiaohu makes you think that BLG could win the fight, but there's so many low health bars on BLG. Breathe just arrives and cooks them up, and Shun playing with fire a little bit here. Has to be somewhat respectful. You lose 2 towers off the back of that lost team fight. Weibo slingshot themselves into the lead.
And it was bizarre for BLG to go for this. Knight doesn't have his ultimate available yet. And On playing way too aggressive. Sure, he whacks Tarzan over the wall, but what do you try and achieve here? Because you've got everyone who's stuck in the pit. Xiaohu with a great ultimate as all these melee champions try and go in, but Knight doesn't really have that execution damage. Elk is being pushed back on the opposite side, and then it's that TP that you talked about, Ezreal, as in comes the Rumble.
I mean, credit to Light. This guy hit everything. I want to say he hit 3 straight Qs on Knight, shifts in, hits an ulti on 3 to 4 members as well. His damage had to be out of this world. He's the one who softened up so many of those members. Yeah, no surprise. Watching that team fight, I knew this guy was going to be dominating the damage charts. Him and Xiaohu really tag teaming to get so much done, and even Tarzan, 2K on the Sejuani.
And Tarzan barely surviving with about 50 health there as well. Xiaohu trying to use the Fate Seal to get away. Knight puts his body in front of him to lessen the distance, but it still doesn't matter. The Weibo mid laner survives as the bottom lane tier 1 turret falls, and once again, the game is back so close.
But you can see in these team fights that it's the AD carries that are already getting to step up, and Light has a massive lead now. And with Weibo just being able to play this dive, push forward, I think it's just opening up for Weibo to really start to take this game. BLG need to get creative. They need to start setting up for these overloading side lane plays so the Akali can get value, but in a team fight, I think I just give it to Weibo.
I agree, and I mean, when you look at how these 2 AD carries are having to play all the fights, it's just wildly different. Light is shifting forward. Light is having so much space created for him, while Elk is running for his life from all of these divers on the Weibo side that are piling in, these 4 melee champions that just have a bullseye on the Kai'Sa. It's going to make it really difficult. So, BLG are going to have to be perfect when they choose those engages. Try to get the plasma in onto Light. Try to get Elk involved in that way so they can get into the backline, burst them down, and find a winning fight through that. But one thing I will say is Kai'Sa really can transform as a champion as you get later into the game, because in the early game, you really are that dive champ. Once you start getting more and more AP items, you can kind of just become a full-on poke champ and say, you know what, I'm not going to interact.
Very, very scary stuff if he can get to that point, but it's a big if, considering Weibo are the ones who seem to have the magic team fight recipe in this one. We already talked about the AoE earlier, and that dragon fight was a beautiful showcasing of it. The multi-hit on the Fate Seal, the Glacial Prison on top of everybody, the fact that the Rumble Equalizer then just completely destroyed the whole thing. BLG are going to have to pilot this smart, and that's the thing that they have done so far in the series, though. We've seen 2 very close games thus far, but when it really mattered, when all the chips were down, BLG came out on top twice.
I think it's more difficult this time around, though, because of how strong Light is. he gets to dictate the mid wave, which makes it very easy then for you to control sides and make it difficult for Knight and Bin to actually play through those side lane strengths. And as long as you're able to push mid and get vision for the Dragon that's in 30 seconds, you're able to keep control over BLG. I think you just set up a front to back where Light is untouched in these fights.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you, but you also have to admit, BLG has had a bit of that magic touch, right?
Yep.
They have had the ability to fight out. There you go, they got that mojo. They've had the ability to fight their way out of some really difficult situations. And that's one of the things I think that just made them so hard to bet against in the LPL. Even when someone would have a bad game, you look towards On's Bard game, you know, in the finals, where he was dying time and time again, but other players step up on BLG and can be a difference maker. There's so many threats on this team, just as far as individual skill, that you can never count them out of a game.
All right, we do have that Hex Rift, and we do have the first one of its dragons alive now as Weibo has control over the bottom side river. Knight is split pushing up in the top lane. Bin just pushing out a wave here in bottom, and it looks like Weibo are going to be able to secure this, but BLG now stepping up a little bit late. Hex Tech Drake secured by Tarzan and Weibo, but now the Skarner ulti coming back over. Equalizer summoned up over the top. Tarzan is low, but he ain't going to be killed off here just yet, still staying alive a little bit longer. Tarzan burns down, and Shun's taking the kill. Light burst it down! Beautiful execution coming in from Knight as Chris has to try to escape. It's 3 dead on Weibo. It's about to be 4. The Dragon fight favored them last time, but this time around it is their death sentence.
It was a disaster for Crisp. We'll catch it in the replay. He goes to twisted advance on towards Elk as he dies, but Elk slingshots himself into the fight, which then completely leaves Light alone with Knight on the back line.
And that is the exact kind of fight what I'm talking about with BLG. You can just never count them out. Knight finds Light, and even with the fight starting so well for Light, ending so much chip damage down, it just didn't matter. He knows the damage thresholds perfectly on the Akali. He flashes forward, finishes off the Ezreal, creates space for the rest of the fight to really get ran over.
But keep their eyes on Crisp here. So essentially they think that they've got the help that they need, but Elk shoots himself immediately down into this fight, brings Crisp with them, which means that then Light is completely left alone on the top side. So Knight just turns on towards the AD carry and burns out Light as the rest of BLG are dealing with Weibo in the piss.
But look at how much damage that was from Knight. I mean, he knows the thresholds perfectly there. Light was about 80% health when Knight was maybe 20 to 30, but he knows flash forward, Q auto, R2 ulti, plus the Storm Surge proc. It was precise damage. He needed this proc damage from the Storm Surge to kill him. He calculates it perfectly. That is the difference between the world's best and everyone else.
And we were talking at the beginning of the game, hey, if Akali gets a couple of kills, if Akali gets ahead of the pace of everybody on Weibo, starts becoming this single issue threat onto Light, then that's how this comp can come alive. And we're at that point of the game right now as Xiaohu's got to try to get away here with a fate sealed. Bin forcing out the flash from the Weibo mid laner. The counter-strike threatening to potentially be a death blow as Weibo are scrambling to try to defend against a Baroned up BLG.
I just love the pressure they're putting on Xiaohu. They know that Yone's ultimate, his flash is so powerful in that 5v5, it's getting taxed constantly.
And now BLG get to set up a mid because they've already blown.
On engages with a massive 3-man knockup, but there ain't any follow-up to go behind it. On's just going to be the sacrificial Alistar as everything gets thrown towards resisting the assault. BLG, yes, they'll claim the tier 1 turret, but it stops there.
I think that Sejuani up from Tarzan may have just saved it because On was hoping we could take the tower, then follow up, but nobody could auto, and now Xiaohu
trying to get away from Bin's Jax. He's
Knight's
already
coming.
used the Soul Unbound. Knight's ready and waiting. The storm strikes, but now the rest of Weibo's coming around to try to pick off Elk and Shun. A nice 2-man impale comes through, and into the back line goes Knight again. He's already found Light. It's lights out for Weibo. It is an ace for BLG.
What is a ghost to a king? As he sits there, he will gobble up Weibo, happy as he can be, as BLG look to make this a 3-0.
They are barreling straight down mid lane with Shun and Bin. I don't know if they'll be able to end it right here. It doesn't look like they can do the whole thing. Weibo is still standing, but their legs are broken.
And look at the gold lead building up from this Baron power play. They're about to take the tier 2 bot as well. This is going to be a 5,000 gold swing here with the Red Bull Baron power play. That is massive. 5,400 gold into their pockets. You needed to execute perfectly to be able to make some of those plays happen earlier on the Akali. Now, not so much.
3,000 gold lead for Knight when he started off this game behind. He has played this absolutely exceptionally. And we'll get to see it again.
It's the whole top side of the map, right? And this is Xiaohu again. They have taxed his resources. No ult, no flash. Bin pushes in, knowing Knight is going to be able to come in and support.
Yeah, and just able to get the immediate perfect execution through him, which means he's got the R2 to follow up. But Weibo are trying to aggress onto BLG as they move into this choke point, and Elk is just free firing the whole time.
And look at how he plays that. Just so much confidence. Knows he's eventually going to go down, but makes sure to hit everything, including that W, to proc the Plasma onto the Rumble, kills him off. They win the fight, and the solo lane lead now is enormous. They know it. They are feeling that World Finals is one fight away.
And it's smiles like that on Knight's face that remind me of his comms saying, look, watch me, I'm about to solo kill this guy. It is a man who loves this game, who brings it to the main stage, and is happy to show his stuff.
Crisp in some trouble here. A shotgun for the three-man Skarner ulti. No follow-up just yet from BLG. Knight coming around from the side. Crisp was about to be killed off here at the very start. Fate sealed, but it is not enough. The only fate sealed today is that of Weibo Gaming. Knight jumps back over the wall as Tarzan and Light scramble to survive. Light kites it out a little bit further, but finally drops. The best team in the LPL shows their worth yet again. They will crush 2023's Demons, and they will earn a ticket to the World Finals in London. BLG is going all the way.
The super team BLG have looked for years is standing on that stage right now. They right the wrongs of 2023, and they will go forward to the World Finals.
Knight leaves no doubt about who is the best mid laner on this stage today. 8-0-7, the final game on the Akali. They have the confidence to lock it. They have the support behind him, and he shows why they do.
BLG with a clean sweep over Weibo to earn their spot in finals. Desk, break it down.
We're just going to share in your hype for a little bit and not just get into breaking it down, because you guys set it up so perfectly about this journey for BLG, about bringing the World Championship back for the LPL. Here we're also, of course, in Paris. FPX grabbed it in 2019. They get this to be their jump-off point into that final, as it is Weibo that have to go home after a valiant effort, but maybe just not the stronger team today.
Yeah, and I think this went according to what we saw from these teams in the LPL. I think more people should be looking at Breathe. He had a great tournament, and again has come so far from the time when he was OMG cursed. But BLG, how cathartic for them, right? Because I was thinking, I was hearing some scrim rumors. I was like, oh no, it might happen again. But they come out, they 3-0, pretty convincing fashion. And now they are finally, this is a team who said that the World Championship is their ultimate goal. If they do not get that, they fail. They are still well on their way, trying to fight for that now in finals.
And we've talked a lot about how much it means for Knight, but Bin also getting back to World Finals. And I think the majority of people want to see a Bin Jax skin. That is also a possibility. That dream is also alive.
Honestly, I'd buy it. I don't even play Jax.
It's also a reminder of how much a team can develop through a tournament. Because if you come back and you go all the way back to the beginning of the tournament, you're like, yeah, BLG made finals. Of course they did. But that was not a given. They were a couple of bad fights, a couple of Baron calls away from not making it to quarters in the first place. And after this, there should be no doubt that they belong to be in that final.
It's a bit LCK-esque, actually, because we said, you know, we're not counting T1, who always wins almost all of their games in like the groups and Swiss, but oftentimes we said maybe not looking too sharp in the initial phases in groups, but knowing how to take that information and develop it into what you need in the best of fives. Now, I will say that they were up versus their very well-known adversaries, Emily, in Weibo, does make me still think that you know, the final could go either way, obviously, but I'm not sure I've seen kind of everything from BLG that they could show this world. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think BLG still have room to grow, still have room to get back to the super dominant team we saw just absolutely raise through the LPL this year. But I do think at every stage we're seeing slightly different facets of them. And in particular, in this series, both Knight and Shun absolutely looked stellar for the team, which is amazing for them going forward into finals.
What's also big is after a semis like this, whoever makes it tomorrow from the LCK will have zero additional information. They really didn't have to give anything away. They got Jax and Skarner, 3 games in a row.
Yeah.
And then like the Akali, it was, you know, Knight obviously having a great game, but also I think just having a little fun, knowing that he could get away with it. Is that actually information that might be used for the final or not? Because if the opponents aren't tested at all, they're not really like the way that Gen G was, for example, have to try and really delve deep in drafts.
Yeah, that is a good point. I will say that I'm a little bit disappointed that we got kind of a 3-0 that was pretty clear cut, because I feel like you kind of felt it that BLG were on course to win this series, even when they were at a deficit, because of the fact that, you know, Bin was on his Jax. We're going to talk to him in a second as well. So I'm left a little bit hungry, but BLG probably likes it that way.
Yeah, and you also kind of felt like this is the direction the whole year has been
gone
going.
in.
If everything is kind of pointing this way, then, you know, happy for BLG to be able to actually secure that it does go that way and get back into the finals and create that hype for us. Because again, at the beginning of the day, when we're talking about our dream finals, most of them, except for, you know, like Emily's, involved BLG.
I tried, okay? I tried.
Hey, that's not very nice.
Not cool, Kobe. Not cool.
Indeed. I think the interview's ready, so Laura's standing by with Bin.
BLG sont vos premiers finalistes des Worlds 2024 et évidemment, il fallait qu'on parle à Gigabin après cette incroyable performance de lui et de toute l'équipe. 3 games, 3 fois Jax. On sait que c'est son champion de cœur, mais peut-être qu'il y avait une autre raison derrière ça. You played Jax 3 times. I know how much you love the champion, but talk me through the reasoning behind picking this champion for the past 3 games and also the confidence you had in your ability to beat the top laner.
首先，恭喜你们获得比赛的胜利。那么说到今天的对局，不得不提到的就是你的3把贾克斯。在这场B5当中，你的贾克斯发挥非常的出色。能不能和我们分享一下，为什么会在今天连续3把选下贾克斯？我们都知道你非常的热爱这个英雄，同时来和我们分享一下，为什么拿到这个英雄能够让你非常的自信，在今天的上路大放光彩呢？
我觉得不管什么时候，我的贾克斯只要能选出来就能赢比赛吧，不管对手是谁。如果他们不ban我的贾克斯，那我这个英雄就是选就会赢。
It feels like whenever and whatever. If I just pick my Jax, I always hold that confident my Jax can get the victory no matter what my teammates are, no matter what's going to happen on the game. If I just pick my Jax, victory belongs to us.
Peu importe la méta, peu importe la composition, mon état de confiance en Jax fait que quoi qu'il arrive, ce sera une victoire pour moi et le champion. Et il avait cette confiance aujourd'hui. En arrivant, on a vu le trailer pour cette demi-finale où il disait « Contre Weibo, ça sera un 9-0 aujourd'hui ». BLG n'était pas forcément dans le meilleur état de forme au début des Worlds, malgré le fait que c'était justement des contestants pour aller jusqu'à la fin et être les champions du monde. Donc peut-être que l'équipe a évolué jusqu'ici. You came into today in the trailer saying that you were going to go 9-0 against Weibo. I know you're one of the favorites to win the tournament, but what gave you the ability to think that it was going to be so one-sided against them today?
其实，在今天的宣传片当中，BLG的队员们有提到说，对于今天的比赛，可能在比赛结束之后，你们和微博的比分会是9-0。所以说，也非常好奇，其实你们也毫无疑问是这次世界赛的夺冠热门之一。也想问一下，是什么给了你们这样的自信？是什么样的实力能够让你们觉得今天会是如此一边倒的对局呢？
我觉得微博也是个很强的队伍吧，然后其实打他们我们是非常有自信的，因为我们今年赢了他们1年，但是主要是想弥补去年半决赛的遗憾吧，我们那个时候输给了他们，没有进决赛，所以今年我们赢他们最大的就是为了弥补去年的遗憾，进入决赛拿到冠军。
For a
things first, I must say WBG is a very strong team, but still we got enough confidence facing against WBG because we got the victory against those teams like for the whole year. But I think we left some regret last year in the semifinals, and WBG stopped our journey, so we didn't manage to qualify to the grand final. So this year, what we need to do is we really need to hold this confidence that we're going to recover the regrets, we're going to qualify to the grand final, we're going to be the champion.
Il y avait quelques regrets après l'an dernier et évidemment beaucoup de respect pour Weibo qu'ils ont affronté pendant toute l'année, qu'ils ont vaincu pendant toute l'année et c'est aussi ça qui leur a donné la confiance aujourd'hui dans la capacité de les battre. Et Bin, ça sera la deuxième fois qu'il va participer à une finale de championnat du monde. La première fois c'était en 2020 avec Suning. À quel point il a évolué. This is going to be the second time you play World Final. The first time was in 2020 with Suning. How much of a different player are you this time, Bin?
其实这也是冰选手将第2次踏上世界赛总决赛的舞台当中。第一次是20年你在苏宁的时候，也想问一下，可能这么多年过去了，这一次再一次踏上总决赛的舞台，你觉得你会成为怎样一个不太一样的选手？你觉得这4年当中你有哪些变化呢？
我觉得20年的时候，那个时候我还没有现在的这么强吧，没有现在这么成熟。然后那个时候，我记得我对面的中男叫小梅卡，因为 SYS9是 LPL 的冠军，然后他说了一句重塑 LCK 荣光，我被义不容辞。所以我觉得今天我也想说这句话，因为我们前2年都是没有拿到冠军的，我也想在这次决赛重铸 LPL 荣光。
Maybe 4 years ago, back in 2020, I'm not that strong, I'm not that mature. And I still remember our opponent in the grand final was Showmaker. And back then in S8 and S9, LPL all got the World Championship title, and Showmaker had this statement, I'm going to hold the responsibility for LCK to have this glory again. So I have the similar feeling because LPL didn't manage to get the final trophy for the 2 consecutive years before. So this time, I'm going to be the one to hold this responsibility to represent LPL for that trophy.
Il a beaucoup gagné en maturité, il a beaucoup évolué en tant que joueur, évidemment, que ce soit son playstyle ou d'autres détails. Et surtout, il se rappelle que la dernière fois qu'il a participé en finale de championnat du monde, c'était contre Showmaker, c'était contre Damwon. Et Damwon avait parlé, justement, Showmaker avait parlé de la responsabilité qu'il avait pour la LCK de gagner cette victoire. Et aujourd'hui, il a l'impression d'avoir un sentiment similaire. Il veut avoir la responsabilité d'apporter un nouveau trophée pour la LPL. Plus qu'une étape le sépare de la coupe qui se tient derrière nous. Quel est son but final, justement, dans le but d'accéder à cette victoire de champion du monde? One step, one best of 5 holds you from hoisting this cup, Bin. You're going to play next week. What is your resolution for final?
那其实你们现在离你们最终的目标，离你们最后的总冠军的奖杯只有1步之遥。再赢下一个 BO5，你就可以捧起你身后的这座总冠军的奖杯。所以说，也想问一下，对于1周以后的决赛，你有怎样的决心？你有怎样的想法呢？
我个人的话，还是更想去在决赛对阵 T1 的，因为他们在世界赛总是能赢 LPL 队伍，但是我觉得。我遇到T1 BO5的胜率是100%，所以这次我想在决赛赢下他们，拿到冠军。
I must say, maybe I like to face against T1 in the grand final this year, because we know T1 really have a super high win rate against all the LPL teams as some kind of the LPL killer. But for me, personally speaking, I got 100% win rate against T1 in the international events. So I really would like to maybe face against T1 and hold the glory and get the victory.
Forcément, une envie de vaincre les champions du monde. Et même si T1, même si FLICKR ont généralement beaucoup de facilité à gagner contre la LPL, ils gagnent tous leurs match-up contre la LPL. Bin a une revanche à prendre et justement a envie de continuer de gagner contre T1, donc forcément c'est un adversaire qu'il a envie de vaincre la semaine prochaine. On a bien vu au début de la journée l'amour qu'il vous a donné, la veste qu'il a lancée dans le public, donc forcément, est-ce que Bin a un message pour vous pour conclure cette interview? We saw the love that the fans gave you last week. We saw the love that you gave the fans this week, tossing your jacket into the crowd. Do you have a message for the Western fans, Bin?
那其实无论是上周的比赛，我们能感觉到所有的观众们对你们的热情，而在今天的比赛，你也以同样的热情回馈给了所有的观众朋友们。你甚至在出场的时候，直接把你的外套扔给观众，扔给所有山呼海啸的人群。所以想问一下，用英语吧，有没有什么话想要对所有的观众朋友们说的？
我先想说，因为这里的观众太热情了，所以我就赛前我想把我的外套脱给他们，然后我说 I'm happy, thank you, I love you.
He also said, because of fans, you guys are really cheering for us, and I can feel the passion, I can feel the enthusiasm from all the fans. So that's why I just decided to throw my jacket to all of you.
Il a ressenti l'amour que vous lui avez donné, il a ressenti la passion que vous aviez pour BLG aujourd'hui, donc c'était sa façon de vous dire merci à vous tous de jeter cette veste. Pas besoin de traduire le message en anglais, il vous aime beaucoup et j'imagine qu'il a hâte de vous voir la semaine prochaine. Une fois de plus pour Bin et BLG, s'il vous plaît, Paris.
Absolutely amazing interview. Oh my God, this was so good. I think so often we get with LCK and LPL players the PR machine, and I'm so sick of it, man. Bin did so well because he was both, I think, kind of sovereign in his approach. He did not kick down on anyone, but he still gave us some absolutely fantastic statements about carrying the responsibility for the victory of the LPL. Whatever time, whatever place, rain or shine, his Jax will carry. This is one of my favorite interviews ever.
Yeah, I mean, it's been such a pleasure to watch him grow up from that point in 2020 where he unexpectedly made the finals into this interview now where he's very thoughtful, right? Like, he's like, I remember this. So it's obvious that not only has he grown as a player, like in game, he's gone so far from being this person who just knew how to dominate lane, wasn't really sure about team fights sometimes, didn't see the map well. Now he sees the map well. Now he team fights well. He still lanes well. And he's incredibly thoughtful about his position here as the top laner of the team who is representing to LPL and is now going to finals.
And I love his call out of T1. He's like, you may have beaten other LPL teams, but not me. And remember earlier in the tournament, he specifically called out Zeus.
Yep.
He's like, I want to play Zeus over any other top laner. He is the best other top laner in the world. Bin always wants
catching some strays.
Like, it is actually insane how much aura this guy has.
Unbelievable.
Giga Bin, for sure.
I love it. Oh my God, it was so great to see. And also we need to crown our Oppo player of the series. Let me tell you, it was a discussion, but the Akali pushed it over the edge for Knight.
Knight was just so emphatic in his play. It was incredible to watch. The Syndra game was really big. That's an iconic champ for him. But the Akali, he was also styling and having fun. And this is me even saying, you know, after game 2, I had basically put in my vote for Shun because Shun Skarner had been so big for them in this series. And I still think it's really close. But I mean, that was some showmanship in the last game.
Yeah. Also, for me, it just sets up even more, because you know whenever we're going to get to the World Final, like, we're going to talk about mid lane, right? Like, it's one of the most impactful roles. It always has been, goes way back. The fact that you have a performance like this going up against either the other person that's in contention for the best mid laner of right now or the best mid laner of all time that's a dream storyline being set up here right from the get-go.
Yeah, now BLG has done their part and we get one of the finals that we were most excited about, right, Emily?
I do want to give a small shout out to Shun because I do think his Skarner was
small. Make it
phenomenal.
big. Small.
It's big shout out to Shun. I mean, again, when BLG were looking so shaky in the Swiss stage, it was Shun who came in as the substitute. Last time, it was his Kindred who actually played really well on it. And I thought he had some great Skarner games that in some cases kept them in team fights when it looked like Weibo were going to beat them.
Yeah, let's have it on the record that they didn't care about Shun at all. It was Emily that saw that his performance was good enough for Oppo. Right, Kobe? That's how it went.
You're really making my jungle heart salty
He's so
here.
mad. He's so mad right now.
I was committed to Shun from the beginning, and I never let go. And I lost.
So, tomorrow because there is also still a chance that we see a similar story tomorrow, right? If it's gone the way it has gone for so many matches for Gen G over T1, this could be a swipe.
That said, a sweep. Oh, it could be. I don't know. It could definitely. It might be a sweep.
A swoop?
I do
swipe right on the series? Is that?
truly believe
Swoop. Sweep.
that
Jesus.
the last series that I remember, like between these two games, it was the LCK Spring Final, and that was it was probably, and then it was maybe Dethroned by Summer, probably the best LCK Final that I've ever cast. The story. The last minute picks, I think those two teams tomorrow are going to create some fireworks.
Yeah, I hope so too, and that will have us sign off because obviously my brain isn't working anymore. It's very hot in the Adidas.
It's really hot in here.
It is. But it's a pleasure. It was a pleasure once again. BLG is heading to London to wait in the finals for either Gen G or T1. We'll find out who joins them tomorrow. Good night.
Picked up for Xiaohu, does not want to get locked up, does not want to get punished. Nice damage from Elk, he just shot him straight to hell. Crisp is down, Shun, Elk and On, all trying to escape as Tarzan's looking to burn down the AD carry. Elk will continue whittling away. Oh, the entry takes his soul. BLG trying to force the end of the game. 5 seconds left on the mid and AD carry of Weibo, but it will not matter. BLG take game 1. Weibo still in the enemy jungle, but the big chicken is already going to be controlled. Right, trying to get away, but the crash down comes down from On, and BLG's already got first blood. Yeah, Xiaohu slammed into the wall. Remember, he has no flash to try to get away, and a lot of damage on defense. Going to be the first kill as Breathe survives. There's no junglers left. Light is struck down by Night Syndra, and Chris will be the last man to fall. BLG win the fight, and they're going to take the game. Knocks Tarzan back from the wall. Never mind, I should have never doubted. Beautiful impale from Shun, pulls back to Fate Sealed, but it is not enough. The only Fate Sealed today is that of Weibo Gaming. Knight jumps back from the wall, and Tarzan and Light scramble to survive. Light kites it out a little bit further, but finally drops. The best team in the LPL shows their worth yet again.